it going, everyone, and welcome back to the Enclave. So we are back again with the third module of our handgun book, Parts and Functions. So this section is quite a short one. It's pretty much like 2 pages, so shouldn't take us too long to go through this. So we basically start off with this introduction page, okay, and you will need to know this for your tests for sure, but not in the extended level of detail that you see here. So for instance, the frame, as described here. The frame is the body of the firearm to which all other parts are attached. It has a similarity to the chassis of the motor vehicle. So that, pretty simply, you can just say is the component that all other components are mounted to. You can be pretty vague about it and you're still going to get the marks for it. It's not really a big deal. The same thing again goes for the barrel, which is the next section. This says the barrel is a metal tube which the bullet will travel. Inside the barrel there are spinning lands and grooves known as rifling that cause the bullet to spin. This spinning stabilizes the bullet in flight. You absolutely don't need to know all of that, but you do need to basically just say something along the lines of the tube the bullet travels down en route to target. That's it, easy. Or before hitting the target, or however you want to put it. Perfect, you'll get your marks there. The slide. I mean, this is a huge description here for the slide. The slide usually works on a blowback principle. It relies on the pressure created by the cartridge firing sequence. This pressure, after pushing the bullet forward, will push the slide to the rear. During the slide's forward or rearward movement, it will eject the fired case and cock the hammer. On its forward movement, the slide will pick up a new cartridge from the magazine and push it into the chamber. Now, I am yet to see that question. I do not believe it is in any of the 4 tests. Where you need to give a detailed explanation of the blowback features of a slide. But knowing where it is important. We will get to that. Otherwise, pretty simple. Like I say, you're most likely not going to find anything on the slide in your tests, any more than listing a component. So, finally, the action. Now, this you will need to know what, not the entire action consists of, but you will need to understand what section of the firearm is considered the action. And as we go to the descriptor, the action refers to moving parts of the firearm. Example, trigger, hammer, and slide. So with different weapons we will get into, there are different actions, but for the handgun it is the trigger, hammer and slide. That you will potentially need to remember, so just maybe keep it in there as it is. Main parts of the revolver, like I said, we're not going to be going through the revolver, so that is what it is. Okay, next up we have our parts page. So it is a breakdown of the semi-automatic pistol and a breakdown of the Glock. So quite simply, it's actually easier for me to pull out our P226 prop, as always unloaded, and basically go through all the parts on here, because even though it's a toy, it does actually have all the parts. So if I just pull this back slightly to begin, So we have the muzzle. Okay, it's actually not so easy for me to hold that back the whole time with my left hand. So we have the muzzle, which is considered the front or opening of the barrel. Never point your muzzle at anything you don't intend to destroy, is obviously the opening of your firearm. If we pull that back, we have the barrel. We then have the front sight. We have the slide. We have magazine release, trigger guard, trigger. On the Glocks, you will have a trigger safety. On this, we actually have what would be a decocking lever, would actually be over here, which is on your, it's actually a safety on the semi-automatics here. So that would either be your decocker or your safety. We have the slide. This would be your ejection port, would be the entire section here. Inside of that obviously is your chamber. We then have the rear sight. Hammer. Things like Glocks, Canics have internal striker fired mechanisms. They don't have external hammers like this. This is the tang, this rounded section here. We then have the grip. Once again, the magazine release, magazine well. So that is it. That is pretty much everything you need to understand or be able to identify. Let me just make sure that I didn't miss anything here. Oh, I did. The frame, which is the lower receiver frame, etc. Lower receivers are more for the larger weapons. So this section here is considered the lower receiver. This section here is considered the upper receiver. So majority of your rifles will break down at this pin here. You can't actually see the big side of it, and will tilt upwards. So your lower receiver and upper receiver will separate thusly. But yeah, anyways, different weapon, we'll get onto that in the future. But yeah, that is pretty much all of that. Pretty simple, pretty simple. And yeah, that is it. I mean, that section really is quite simple. Once you've handled the firearm a few times, be it toy, be it the real thing, you can very quickly learn the components. There are not very many components that make a handgun, to be honest. At the end of the day, internally is maybe like 5 or 6 components. Other than that, I mean, maybe like 10 at most, if you consider every section a component. But I mean, firearms are actually quite simple in their construction. It's one of the things that I think irritates anti-gun nuts, is that, I mean, it's as simple as doing that, and within a split second a whole load of things can go down. But yeah, I don't really have a whole load more to go on about with the parts and components. Specifically for test, like I say, you will need to absolutely just know a brief descriptor of each of the components for the semi-auto handgun. Other than that, not much to go over in this section. I would say you've probably got between 4 and 5 marks wrapped up in the parts questions. They're each worth about a single mark each. So don't stress too much, but definitely just have an understanding of it. It's not like the safety section where, to be honest, if you skip that safety section you're probably going to fail the test. But this, a little bit more leeway here. So yeah, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, please ask down below. I will gladly answer any questions I can. Yeah, if you got more time, please feel free to click through to another video here at the end. And as always, peace out.